Everyone, this is Dr. Haider, and I'm back after a long time, and I'm here with my brother Hassan. So I guess you can introduce yourself, just tell people who you are. This is where, but first, our plan here is to do something a little different, a little bit more casual. Instead of like me constantly answering medical questions, we're just gonna talk about stuff, and if you guys like it, you can watch, and we'll discuss some stuff about health and healing and stuff like that, and just see what's in the news, trending topics, and if people are have any questions, they can send them in, and we'll just go with it. So yeah, Hassan, you want to go? Hassan actually worked with me at my go-to doc for like a year or so, right? And
Yeah.
so that was fun. But anyway, give us a little intro.
Sure. Okay, I didn't think about this, so this is off the cuff. Also, I'm seeing myself, and I'm like, anyway, vanity. The wrinkles. Oh, should have moisturized before this. Okay, so my name is Hassan Haider. I'm Hussein's younger middle brother, number 2 of 3, and I'm just a couple years younger than him. We grew up very close, and I went to University of Florida, the same as Hussein did. And shortly after graduating, I left the States, intending to kind of just go somewhere else and explore the world, a kind of seed that was planted by our parents by taking us to live in Pakistan when we were little. When I was like 6 and Hussein was 8. It kind of opened my eyes to there being other places besides the U.S. And, that sounds funny, but I think when you grow up in the U.S., you get this impression that that it's the center of the world, I guess, in a way. Anyway, so I moved to Japan to teach English because just kind of randomly, I was thinking about doing the Peace Corps or, different things. And I taught English in Japan for a year, realized that I enjoyed Japan, but teaching was at the time was really not for me. And I ended up traveling to Korea. I had a ticket to be here for a couple weeks, basically. And long story short, I ended up staying. So I've been living in Korea for off and on with, a few years in between where I left, but almost, more than 17 years. I got here around early 2005. And besides like 3 or 4 years in the middle where I was back in the US, I've been here ever since. So in that time, while my brother was building his medical career, I was doing kind of random things. I started out doing like acting on TV because they gave a working visa so I could stay here. And that was a funny little detour. Then I became like a very silly.
You're a very good actor. That's all I can say.
I mean, it wasn't intended to be like good acting, but
yes,
I wouldn't.
Or something? Was it a sitcom?
No, it was a show. It was called. No, actually, I'm not going to tell you what it was called, but it was a show where they had like these sort of B-list celebrities would sit and watch these 3 stories that were filmed every week. And so I would appear as an actor in one of the stories. And the stories were always these mysterious or fantastical. They would have to vote on which story was fake, I think. Of the 3, maybe one of them was not real. So it'd be like, silly things like something about the Bermuda Triangle, or one time I played Rasputin, or I played I remember I played a mailman who murdered people. They were like sometimes based loosely on true events and sometimes just not. And it was very low budget, like very bad acting. Like everyone, there was one friend of mine had some experience as an actor. Otherwise, the rest of us were all just doing it.
Were you speaking Korean at that time, or was this?
No. That was all in English. Yeah. So that show, although being very low budget and very bad, like objectively bad, had a very huge like viewership and was on TV maybe even until recently, I mean, for more than 20 years, probably 30 years or more.
street, right? Like you were kind of
People used to
semi.
recognize, like, Korea has mandatory military service. I remember being told, oh yeah, they let like the soldiers on Sundays, they get to watch that show, right? So like it was popular among young people, old people, and just a very popular, ridiculous show. And I think some people maybe hoped that they were getting exposure to English language while watching it too. That's one of the reasons. Although, I mean, half of the actors were from countries where English wasn't their first language and spoke with very thick accents. And so, I don't know. It was a hilarious interlude in my life. Anyway, after that, I became a voice actor randomly, and started a couple of businesses in Korea, and have basically lived here ever since. Yeah, that's kind of a long-winded intro for
What happened? What
who I
happened with
am.
the businesses? Are any of them still around?
Yeah. Some friends of mine and I, we started like basically kind of the first Western style craft beer company in Korea called Magpie Brewing, and that's still going. I'm no longer a partner. I stepped away in 2024. Yeah. But my friends are still doing it, and it's still going, which is an accomplishment in and of itself in the sort of food and beverage landscape in Korea, which is notoriously trend based and fickle. So they're doing, just hanging on is like a huge success story.
Yeah, you
It's
were
really
telling
hard
me
to find.
when I visited you, you were telling me how they added this really amazing pizza, right? Are they still like offering that same pizza, or is that not part of
Yeah,
the name?
the pizza there is quite good. There's several years ago we hired this chef, Matt Blessy, who is a incredibly talented Korean American adoptee. Who I mentioned that because he's pretty involved in like Korean adoptee issues, but a really talented chef, and he like revamped our entire menu several years ago, and he helps every now and then with like new menu items. That guy Matt actually has this pizza project that he continues called Eat Your Crust. It's kind of like this nod to, like, I think during his papa at this restaurant he was a partner at earlier, there was like a dollar discount if you, or a dollar surcharge if you didn't eat your crust or something. Like, I think it was a dollar discount if you finished your crust. The point, like, he was trying to show people how delicious crust can be, because his is amazing. He does
Mm,
this like, multi-day ferment, etc. And he was trying to dispel this idea that
mm.
people have where they just eat the part of the pizza and throw the crust away. But he makes probably the best pizza in Korea. It's really incredible. You can look up Eat Your Crust Seoul on Instagram. But yeah, I mean, to be frank, the pizza at Magpie is his recipe, but he described it once to me as it's like the best that you can achieve with the constraints of being in a normal restaurant, like having to train staff who has turnover, and also like be able to do it, like, ferment the pizza. Maybe it's overnight or 2 days, whereas the pizza that he sells is like 20 pies a day. Usually, I think he's maybe a little bit more, scaled it up a little bit more now, but it's a one person thing. And he says he babies his pizza. So it's like 3 days, and he's like constantly checking it and tweaking it. And it's really amazing. But he's always coming up with new, bizarre, but incredible flavor combinations. And really, it's probably the best pizza I've had. Definitely in Korea, if not, he probably wouldn't love it if I said this, but like maybe anywhere. Yeah, so Magpie has very good pizza and fried chicken and all
Mm.
kinds of stuff. Good,
You know
pretty
what
good
this
food. They,
reminds me of, just as an aside, it like hearing you talk about the way he's like so like passionate about making like amazing pizza, and that like it's just not scalable. It's impossible to scale something that's like that involved and that like, excellent. Anyway, it just reminds me of like what Shabazz does, which is like when he starts to treat somebody, like they're constantly messaging him, and like they're like, this changed, or like I had to go to the emergency room, or this and that. And like he can't get really good outcomes unless he's like in basically constant contact in the beginning, which is just like it's overwhelming for him. And they're I don't think a lot of his patients actually appreciate how much time he gives. And like, what actually, this is a good story that I'm including in this article that I'm writing. There's this pretty prominent, he's like one of the best geneticists in the world. And he is like a partner at like a startup that does, gene sequencing for, consumers, a famous startup, which has a lot of like famous, partners and, affiliates, and, all these people have used it. And he has functional medicine clinics and around the world. I mean, he's like a pretty big shot. And anyway, he knows Shabazz, and he couldn't actually fix himself, right? Like he gene sequences people, and then he creates custom supplements based on their genetics, and does all this functional medicine testing, and like the whole 9 yards, right? Like the most advanced stuff you can do in the world. And he couldn't fix himself. He couldn't fix his mom, right? Like, and so finally he's known Shabazz for years, and he's kind of like followed along. And so he comes to Shabazz, and finally he becomes a patient of Shabazz. And he's super impressed, right? Like he talks to him, he like discusses things, and he's just like, basically blown away at like how much he knows about like modern medicine and science, not just about like ancient stuff. He's a naturopath. And so one day he comes to Shabazz, and he's like, I have people who are interested in investing. Like we can scale this. We can make this huge. I have access to big money, right? And Shabazz is like, it's not scalable. We can't do that. And he was like kind of offended. He was like, because it's like flies in the face of like everything he believes in. And he's like, it's kind of like just the idea that you can like that. So basically his point is that people aren't scalable. You can't scale a one person, right? Like, and everyone is unique, right? And the way that mastery used to work was that you had a relationship with another human being, and you passed it on, right? And it might take a while. It might take 20 years. It might take 2 years, right? It all depends on like how ready the student is, how ready they are to like take what you're giving them. So master apprentice, basically. And then, like our modern, it's not that like, that capitalism is like evil or something necessarily, but when it's like driven to expand so rapidly, it's fueled by debt, and you just have to like expand to keep up with the debt, and like the debt servicing, you have to like pay it back, and you have to constantly like get bigger and bigger. And so, and inflation like drives people to just keep expanding, keep making more money. So like all of these kind of like interrelated forces create this like need to like maximize everything, right? Like you gotta get hundreds of thousands of doctors. You have to like institutionalize everything. You have to like standardize it. You have to create schools that like pump out degrees as fast as possible, right? All of that like dramatically waters it down to the point that like at this point, like a lot of things don't even work at all. Like they're the opposite of what they're supposed to be. Like modern medicine, in my experience, is like it actually makes you sicker. It doesn't make you better at all. It covers things up, and it just like makes you worse. But I think there's like a spectrum, obviously. So like again, one person's not scalable, and there's 8 billion people who need this, right? They need help. They need to get better. And so like one of our friends has like this course that he does with people, and it's like way simpler, right? Like it's more like automated. It's more like, okay, let's just do something simple. Let's just like get you off of sugar in the first week. And in the second week, you'll, stop eating, bread or something. Right. And and we'll do it together. But like, there's no like one-on-one, and, it's just trying to meet people where they are, I guess. Some people aren't ready for dramatic change. But anyway, I just thought that was kind of like interesting connection there.
Yeah, it's because there's this genuine instinct. So like when you find something good, you're like, how do we bring this to everybody? But there are like bottlenecks that and I'm thinking like in business as well, there's these bottlenecks that we sometimes try to skip over, right? Or try to. Hmm. Yeah, I mean, it would be wonderful to have like 100,000 Shabazes.
So that's the thing. Like, if enough people knew about it and enough people demanded it, like eventually tons of doctors would come and try to learn from him, right? And it would expand, but it's like it's just not something you can't just pump it out on a factory line, like, snap your fingers and make it happen. Like, it has to be people,
Yeah,
like, he
it
gets
would
to the
take a
point.
generation, you know.
Yeah, or yeah, at
It would
least
take
years,
yeah, many years.
because he would have to train the first group, and then they would have to get good enough to go train other people, and then it, like, it expands out.
So don't you think though that this is
um
the promise of AI, that there will be some like AI Shabazz someday that'll be able to mostly like get close?
so this is a great point, and actually, like, he actually spoke about this to me like yesterday, because I'm writing this article and I'm gonna like include this point in it. It's gonna be kind of like a feature article, like maybe 10,000 words or something ridiculous, and then turn into like 10 other smaller articles to make it easier to digest later. But I thought it was important to just like kind of try to put everything in one place to like explain to somebody, or as many people as possible, like what's going on here with him and his patients. And it's not right for everyone, but so so the way he explained it was that, like, yes, you can. What is AI, first of all? Like what does it kind of try to mimic out of a human being? So what it mimics is the talking mind. It mimics, like, just the language faculty, right? And human beings, when they are in person, especially, there's more that's happening than just like exchanging words, like, written information, like intellectual conversation. There's like a not just a meeting of minds, there's like a meeting of hearts and like energies, right? Like there's this energy field that kind of like combines with the other person's energy field, and there's like a feeling you get, and there's like pheromones, and like it's very complicated, right? So like every level of a human being interacts with every level of the other human being. And so this is like a really important point. Like his the deepest change with his patients isn't just like physical information and they do something different physically. Then there's like an energetic level, they have to like change energetically, and then there's like an emotional level, and there's the intellectual level, there's like what they believe about themselves and the world and the thoughts that they have, and there's like a motivational level, like how motivated they are. Can they be inspired, to become more motivated? And so, like, all of this stuff, it's impossible to replicate with a machine. Like, the machine just doesn't have all of those other levels to it. Like, it can mimic things, it can mimic like feelings and motivations and like stuff like that. But like, even if you're talking to Shabazz, like, and you're not in person, there's still an exchange of energy, because like we still all exist in the same universe. There is no real, right? Like, or there doesn't have to be, right? Like, you're still, and he talks about this idea of morphic resonance, which Rupert Sheldrake took from, basically, kind of plagiarized. I mean, like, really, there's nothing new under the sun. Like, so whatever somebody comes up with, it's been done before. And so a lot of these concepts are from, Ayurveda, like 5,000-year-old concepts, or from Chinese medicine, both of them. And Rupert Sheldrake, whether you believe it or not, but anyway, he has a really interesting book. And one of the things that he showed was that, like, for example, if you had a mouse learn how to run like a complicated maze, all of a sudden, like, every mouse in the world would be able to complete that maze a little bit faster than they had before any mouse had completed it, which is like, sounds weird. And he kind of showed the same thing with people too. So like there was this famous like incident where I think it was on British television, where they did this experiment or something. Somehow I don't remember the details, but basically it was one of those pictures where you look at it and you don't know what's in there, at first. You're like trying to like get your eyes or whatever. And so, like, they did this, and they kind of like tracked how long it took people to figure it out. And the more people who saw it, the faster new people could figure it out, could see it, right? Which is also weird, right? And he thought that explained like rising IQ scores and stuff, the Flynn effect. So anyway, the point here is that there's a lot to human beings that can't be replicated by like say, for example, you get like something that looks exactly like a human being, right? Like a robot, like a Terminator type robot with like, skin on the surface, right? And a robot underneath. And it talks just like you and it looks just like you. And yet, like when you're with that thing, like there's gonna still be an uncanny valley. Like you're not gonna feel like as though you're with a person, right? There's not gonna be like a real heart in there. And so like when people really change at a deep level, which is what it takes to actually heal completely or like heal properly, it requires like the heart to change. And so this gets to like this idea that you can't change from books at that level, at least, right? Like at a spiritual heart level, you have to connect with another heart that has what you want, right? So like the thing that you want, you can only get it from somebody else who already has it, like directly. It's like a direct, like person to person transfer of like, it's like a knowledge, or it's actually a state of being, right? And that state of being influences how you understand facts and how you use them. And it changes the effect that the things that you do in the world have on the world and on other people. So like you might be doing the same things on the surface. It might look like you're doing the same things, but when your heart changes, like it changes the effect that those things have on the people around you and the world around you. So anyway, like people are just, they're not replaceable by AI. Their jobs can be replaced for sure. But if we transition to like a society that values the things that you can't replace with machines, that actually goes back to valuing like what humans actually have to give each other, right? Then, every job that a human does can be infused with that, but especially the jobs that like involve like interactions with other human beings where you want to interact with a human being, right? So if you go to like a therapist or a masseuse or something, like there is an energy that they have in their hands or their body that like, feeds you and sucks their energy out, like the people who know about this, they can experience it, right? Like unless they take care of themselves, they're exhausted by, hands-on treatments and counseling. It's just like there's a lot, right? There's a lot of things that human beings can't be replaced at doing. So that's kind of his perspective.
What came to mind was like, do you think that for certain things? Okay, so I understand what you're saying about like the heart. If the heart needs to heal, that there needs to be some kind of a transfer of a state of being, which probably isn't going to come from an AI, a large language model that like mimics conversation. But for most people's like, since most people don't really think about that level, and modern medicine isn't engaging with that level anyway, unless that specific doctor happens to be. Do you think that like eventually we'll get somewhere where like 90%, like where it's simply by ingesting everything, every conversation he's ever had with every patient and every decision, and
yeah, I don't know if he'll let us do that, but I think that like saying is correct, that like very soon, like literally it could be within months, if not a year or two, but probably not more than 2 years, maybe not even more than 1 year, like at the rate this thing is going. So like I've actually started looking into this like in a lot of detail in the last week or two, and my mind is blown. Okay, like I have been blown away at the current state of what AI can do, and like almost no one in the world understands that like everything about AI accelerated like 10x at least in the last month. Okay, like the models got an upgrade, but that's just like the beginning of it. Like those are just chatbots, right? So like that's one piece, but like the next piece is that now there's all these like frameworks where the models remember and they learn and they can do everything a human being can do on a computer, right? And this has just started happening, like every day it's accelerating. Every day there's something new happening. Some new company is saying that like we're offering this. You can get it open source. You can get it you can basically get it for free if you're willing to set it up. I mean, it's not super easy to set up, but like every single day it's getting easier and easier. And at this point, like I'll tell you some of the things that I was able to do with it. I mean, it's like you don't need to be a programmer anymore. Even the programmers aren't programming anymore. They just tell the AI what to do, and it just does it. And if it can't do it, it keeps trying and trying different ways until it figures out how to do it. Like, and you can watch it thinking as it's going, and you're just like, whoa. So yeah, very soon we'll have like it's going to depend. Like right now you can do it, but it's not like perfect, right? Like it's close to perfect, and it depends on how much money you want to spend on it. So the costs are just going to keep going down. And now at this point, if you spend a few $100s on training a large language model on like a lot of writing that you've done, like it needs information, right? So like writing is good. And then if you can give it access to like all of your messages, right, on WhatsApp, everything, and all of your email, all the emails you've ever sent, right? You give it all of that. You can train it to sound maybe like 70 to 80% like you for like $0. Like as long as you have the system that knows how to like search those things and like you design it properly, it will it'll be able to mimic you like 70 to 80%, right? Depending on how you tweak it. And then the next jump up costs a few $100s to train the system at a deeper level. And then it's like 85% maybe, and maybe even 90% like sounds like you. Okay. So like you ask it a question and the answer you get back like sounds like you. And so a lot of people have like, especially writers, right? Like they've trained it like at a deeper level, like spending a few $100s, and had it write something like an article and given it to people who know their writing pretty well, and those people couldn't tell the difference, right? They were like, I thought you wrote this, right? And then the next level, to get like the next 10%, right, to get to like 95 to 100%, or maybe 95 to 98% at this time, like at this point in time, and maybe even 100%, right now costs like hundreds of thousands, if maybe $1 million, because like the training that you have to do is like you have to like create your own model for yourself, basically, right? And that's still pretty expensive. So, but those costs are going to go to zero, and then everyone's going to have a model that's like perfectly trained on them. And I don't think most people's like relatives will be able to tell the difference between like if that language model is texting them on WhatsApp or emailing them, or like driving like a AI version of their face and talking to them on like a video. I think most people won't be able to tell the difference. So that's here, like it's here right now to the point where like it's good enough to write, to like replace somebody who writes for a living, which is outrageous, right? But to like, for people who are like perfectionists, like who can look at it and they're like, oh, that's not exactly me. And like what happens with them is that when they want to write an article, they can write an article which is like good enough in like 10% of the time, maybe, just kind of like guiding the AI a little. But if they usually spend writing an article, the article can be like 5 or 10 times better than their normal article, right? Because it creates leverage. That's the main thing, right? Like it makes you able to do things way faster, right? And I've personally had experience with this because I'm writing an article right now, and it just like, I just threw in all these sources into it, right? Like all the stuff I've written, like video transcripts, videos, things people, feedback people gave Shabazz and stuff. And I threw it all in there, and I was able to like mine it and like pull out the parts that would like be perfect for the kind of article that I wanted to write, and like, if I had tried to do that myself, it would have taken me forever. Okay. Like it's basically reviewing like hours and hours of video and automatically transcribing it and automatically seeing what's happening in the video and syncing it syncing the transcript to a description of what's happening in the video, what the person looks like, or do they look sad? What are they wearing? Is the light like this or that? And then it can describe and tell you what they said. And you don't have to go and watch hours of video to get that information out of your videos, right? And like this is the mind blowing part, that this is one of those moments where like, even after like a week of like learning about this, I still was like doing things that I didn't have to do myself. And like at one moment I was like gonna watch a video, right? So like, and then I was just like, wait a second. And so I go to this AI, which is available to everyone now. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, you can pay $20 to ChatGPT or to Claude, and you get access to this AI that can do this. And so I go to it, and I'm like, here's this video. Can you transcribe it? And it like literally in like 60 seconds, it like does all this stuff in the background. I could see it doing it that would have taken like a human being, like, 30 minutes or an hour if they knew what they were doing. If they were a programmer, if they knew where all the tools were, how to do it. And so it goes online, it downloads all these like, tools and things that are free, and it writes its own code, and it like transcribes the video, and boom, like I have a transcription. And then I'm like, whoa, that was amazing. And then I go back and I start like, I get like quotes like automatically extracted that are like perfect for my article, right? And then I write the article and I send it to AI, and I'm like, act like an editor. Tell me like what's wrong with this. And it's like, well, it would be nice if you could like describe the scene, And I'm like, yeah, of course. And so then I open up the video again, and I'm like trying to find the part in the video where she's saying that thing that she says. And then I'm like, wait a second. So I go back to the AI, and I'm like, can you like actually watch the video and like describe everything, and then like sync it up with the transcript? And it like goes off in the background, downloads a bunch of other stuff, writes some more software in the background, and like spits it out in another minute. And I'm like, what just happened here? And so like I've been having these kind of moments over and over again in the last week, which like people are just not aware. Like at this point, you can like start a company to do anything in like a week. Okay. Like it's like, it's crazy. So, anyway, my point was that it's all, I hope what it's going to do is it's going to create this leverage where you can like create 10x better stuff for the people and to help them. Right. So help me create not necessarily 10 times more content, but create like 10 times better content, right? Like 10 times articles that are hopefully much better than the articles that, I usually write, and maybe videos that are much better, and help it to like, create TikToks from videos, or like have it watch this video and like create like an idea for a Substack post, and an idea for tweets, and an idea for this and that. And just like, maybe give me a first draft, and like I can go and be like, yeah, that's not right, and fix it up. But like the whole point of all of that is not to make money from like creating lots of content. The point of all that content is to like convince people to like change themselves, and to like, get better and stuff like that, right? So, which Shabazz is like really about that, right? So he still lives in the same place he's always lived, right? So like he, for like at least 7 years, if not more, didn't work at all, and he wasn't really making, he was just living off of savings, and he wasn't rich, so he was kind of living a pretty like, pared down life, lifestyle. And he was seeing patients for free, he didn't want to take money from anyone. And he just got busier and busier and busier. And like I went to him, a few years ago, and I was like, hey, like I think you could help, patients, can you come and join me at my GoToDoc and like see patients, and I think you should charge people. And he refused, and he didn't want to. And then I went back to him, a couple of years later, and I asked him again. And then like a few months later, he was like, yeah. And the thing that had changed was not that he wanted to make money. Basically, I mean, he did need to like have like enough money to live, but like he wasn't trying to like upgrade his lifestyle or get rich or anything, right? Like he basically just wanted a few $1,000s a month to like survive, as his, savings are, can't last forever. And any extra money he gets, he basically pays for people who can't pay for themselves, right? Like he buys their supplement. And I've seen this in person with my own eyes, right? Like people, like I was sitting with him in his living room where he does his consults. Like he doesn't even have an office, right? He has a living room in his apartment where he sees people, and he like I saw one after another person come in, and he's just like going into his kitchen, and he's like comes back with like these herbs and these things that they can't afford from like America, and he just like hands it to them. He's like, here, take this. And there's this lady from Egypt, right, who's like who like I think she had cancer. Yeah, she had cancer, and she's cured, and more than just cancer. I mean, she was just like not doing well, and she was, overweight, and she was like brain fog, whatever, like all this stuff, right? And so now she's like cured, and like she's inspired a lot of other people in Egypt, which is not a super rich country, to also, start doing what he's, to start on one of his protocols. And so like she was there visiting from Egypt, and he like brings out all this stuff, and he's like, giving it to her to take back to Egypt to give to all these other people, right? And like, it's not just herbs. I mean, those aren't super expensive all the time, but like some of them are just not available overseas. Like you have to get them shipped over, and it's expensive, or you have to know somebody who's traveling. But it's like juicers and like, red light therapies and like sauna blankets and like, these things that he considers really important for some people who are like dying, and so like just, people have this like impression that like, oh, he's charging like $1,000 or something. And first of all, like doctors usually who charge $1,000, like that $1,000 pays for like the 30 minutes or like the hour that they spend with you. And then like another 15 minutes where they tell their assistant to write you some prescriptions. And then they don't think about you again for like, until they see you again and charge you another $500 or $1,000 for functional medicine treatment, right? Whereas with Shabazz, most people pay him $1,000 one time, and then they like never have a follow-up consult with him again. They just text him for free for like forever. And so like eventually I don't think that's going to work anymore. Like he's going to have to charge for, non-appointment follow-ups also. But also like it's not just that hour that he spends with them. It's like after the thing, he'll be like thinking about them, meditating about it, and sometimes just going and doing research on like of cutting edge things that like no one knows until they actually go and search for them, right? Like you learn a certain amount in med school, but then constantly new things are being developed, right? Like people are finding out new things that like, like at least every few months, he'll come to me like, you got to try this. Okay. Because like he tried it on himself or he tried it on a patient, and like all of a sudden he was like, oh my God, like I found something that like really helps people, something new that I didn't know about before. Right. And so like he's told me like sometimes he'll spend like 20 hours on one consult. Okay. Which, so like his hourly rate is more like, less than $50 an hour. It's not $1,000 an hour. So anyway,
to take you back to something you mentioned earlier when you were talking about like, it's very, or maybe it's already at the point where you can wire up like something that imitates your face and your voice and connects it to an LLM that learns how to talk to you like you. And even your family members won't be able to tell the difference. And I think like a lot of people are worried about scams and their elderly parents getting all their money stolen from them. But I just had this flash of an image of like someone having their AI talk to their mom, who actually is also using an AI to talk to her son. And like it's just two AIs talking to each other, and then they both update you. I guess there's like there's like an ongoing WhatsApp with your AI where it's like your mom said this, but like it wasn't even your mom, And then
Yeah. You're not going to know anymore. Like, especially it's going to start off with just like business, where like all business is going to just be like my AI talking to somebody else's AI, unless it's like, somebody who's like the VIP in your business who pays you like, a big check, and like you want to make sure that everything happens right for them. But at this point, most people like aren't at the very, very cutting edge. So like their AI system, even like close to the cutting edge, is like they're screening what their AI says, right? Like the AI drafts the email and they say, okay, that's good, send it. For most of the stuff that's written, tweets, blogs, emails. But like from what I've studied in the last couple of weeks, we are actually at the point, if you know how to set it up and you know how to train it properly, it is at the point where like it can basically be close to perfect at like just automating your everything in your life, which is mind blowing. And it's not even that like technical anymore. So like the latest thing that just was released 3 months ago, but like really took off like in the last few weeks, is called OpenClaw, CLAW, and it was kind of like a takeoff of Claude. So it used to be called ClaudeBot. Claude is one of the leading AI company, one of the leading AI agents, and so like he built it for that. But then they had this problem. They like sent him like a cease and desist notice. It's and he had actually written CLAWD bot. He didn't actually use the writing of their name, which was CLAUDE. Like the human name. But anyway, so he had to change the name. So anyway, and then he turned it into OpenClaw. So this thing, basically what it did, it didn't invent anything new, but it brought together a bunch of pieces that used to be very difficult and like custom work to put together. So the pieces were like the LLM model, which most people are used to, like they go and talk to ChatGPT and it talks back to them. That piece, plus like persistent memory, like short-term memory, medium-term memory, long-term memory, the ability to search through its memory, and so like it doesn't forget you. It actually learns more and more about you, and it understands context of what you're talking about, in real time. And like ChatGPT, and it has a little bit of this. Like sometimes you'll get a reply and it'll be like, I know, you're into holistic medicine, so blah blah blah. But it's not that good, right? Like you'll tell it like something that you spoke to to it about like in another conversation, and it's like, I don't have access to that, But so anyway, that's solved. The memory piece is solved. Tool use, ChatGPT does use some tools, but this thing can use any tool that's on a computer that a human can use. And then there's like these skills, which are like open sourced, which like create the ability to do like complicated tasks. And they just like, you just plug them in and it does them. And if one isn't available, you can just like tell it to make a skill to do something you want it to do. And so, yeah, like all the pieces to make like something that like basically does what human beings do on computers.
You can, for example, sorry to interrupt. You can, the New York Times, the Daily Podcast had something just maybe less than a week ago about this, about I think specifically about OpenClaw, but introducing this idea to people like that the age of agentic AI is actually here. But like you could give this AI the skill to do Photoshop or video editing, for example, right? So like people. Mm-hmm. Like literally anything that anyone can do right now on a computer can now be done by these things, right?
Yeah.
But it's not just that. I mean, yeah, I'm there's a lot of people are talking about this already, but like you don't even have to. I think there's a lot of people who want to, for example, like create their own YouTube channel, but the hurdle is like, oh, I don't want to edit. But I guess you don't even really need to film the content anymore, right? Because you can just like make up fake video now.
Yes. Yeah, as long as it has like enough video of you talking, saying whatever you want, and like it doesn't take a lot. It can just like create videos of you on the fly with whatever background you want, with whatever script you want, and it can make up all of those, right? Before it creates them. And so like this was all, like a lot of this was possible years, but it was really hard to do. Now we're at the point where like if you set it up properly or you use the right one and you pay like $20, $30 a month, or you just make it yourself, you can actually just tell it to do it and it does it, right? So like right now it's a little bit like hard to set up to get to that level where it's like really production quality. But even that barrier is going to disappear in the next few months, because like the opportunity to remove that barrier is so great that like every AI company is racing to remove that barrier, right? To make it where like their version of this bot, right? That's more than just a chat bot now. It's like a fully functional, like online tool using like intelligent being, right? Has access to like basically every skill, right? It knows how to be like a marketer. It knows how to be a writer. It knows how to be everything, a doctor. It knows how, it can just plug in these different, skills and ways of like thinking to do anything, right? It can plug in like 10 different skills if it needs to like, have like a swarm of agents that are like creating, fulfilling a task, right? Like, so for writing, the reason people don't actually get good quality out of AI is that they go to it and they tell it like, write me a great article about XYZ, right? And that's it, right? The way to actually get good quality from it is you have to like research, you have to tell it to first research it, find some good sources, brainstorm about the idea, come up with like, what's the purpose of this writing? Who's the audience for the writing? What's the worldview of the writer? What's the, all of this stuff? How should it be written? Like, should it be written in like a journalistic style, a narrative style, explainer style, whatever, right? And on, right? Like there's multiple steps. And then there's like a feedback loop where it's like, okay, you wrote the article, now edit it as though you're like a, major magazine editor, and then like have it reviewed again. And then like, back and forth. And so like all of that was like all manual for most people. Like as long as you had that system in place, you could create really great content and writing and, software and whatever you wanted using AI before. Now, all of those steps can themselves be automated, and the AI can like spin up different versions of itself that like put on different hats or different roles for each step, right? And so like you can like automatically generate good ideas based on what's trending, and then you can automatically like validate them in some way based on like some votes or something that different types of people in a company would usually do. And so you can like basically whatever task humans would do in a group or in different stages are now like replicable pretty easily with the technology that's out there. And so like the main thing that distinguishes people who can use this AI, it has nothing to do with coding anymore. Like the thing can do the coding for you. You don't have to code. You don't have to understand anything. Like it can walk you through everything that it needs from you to do step by step. And then the distinguishing feature amongst people who are successful with it is that they kind of like, they have to be able to like think and express themselves well. Okay. So like what that means is that actually like a lot of the people who are programmers, they're not very good at communicating or expressing themselves, right? And they're actually going to fall behind. I think like the super programs of the future are going to be like the people who can communicate with other people really well will be able to communicate with AI really well, and they'll be able to understand AI's own failings, right? Like they have to have kind of like an empathy for the AI where like they understand what it's not good at understanding so that they can explain that piece of it better. And they'll be the people who can like think to themselves, like, what is it I'm actually trying to do here? What is the problem I'm really trying to solve? And then explain that problem in detail and explain the outcome that they want in great detail and explain like the research that they want to inform that problem in some detail. And all of that, like, it doesn't mean you have to sit there and think about it yourself. What it means is that you have a conversation with your AI first before you decide to tell it to like make a clone of Facebook for me or something, right? Or like make a clone of Zillow for me, right? You have to tell it exactly what you're trying to achieve, exactly what you want it to do, just in natural language, right? And the other crazy thing is about these latest agents is that they can change themselves based on feedback that you give them in natural language. Like if the AI is or acting in a certain way that you don't like you literally tell it now that, can you act a little different? Can you be a little warmer? Can you make some more jokes? Can you like research things more before you come to me and tell me them and whatever, right? Like whatever behavior you don't like, you tell it in like just language and human, in English, and then it automatically updates its memory, updates its operating procedures. And then the next level, which is even more impressive, is that it's not writing code for that. It's writing into natural English language files that you can open and edit yourself directly, right? And you can read them. So like it has like an operator file, which is in English, and it literally reads that file in English that tells it what to do whenever it does stuff, right? It has like a soul, quote unquote, a soul file that tells it like who it is, its motivation, whatever. Yeah, it's crazy. And so like, if you're not getting a good response from it, when you tell it to change, you literally just open up its brain and edit it in English, right? You just read what's there and you're like, oh yeah, this is, or you copy and paste it into another AI and you ask the AI, how should I rewrite this for the behavior that I want? Like I keep telling it not to do this or that or do this differently. How would you rewrite this file that's in English to get that behavior that I want, that I'm not getting, right? It rewrites it, you copy paste it back, or you tell it to do it, right? You can also, you don't even have to send it to another AI. You just tell the AI itself, hey, you haven't been like responding the way I wanted. I told you, you still didn't do it. How would you rewrite your whole file to try to get this behavior, right? And then it just does it in the background. And so like, it's like, when you have like your child or something, right? And they're like being rude to you, like it's as though you could tell them to stop being rude and they're never rude again. Like instantly they change, right? Or tell them to be more outgoing, you tell them to be, more cheerful, and instantly happens, right? So that's what happens with this thing. So it is very exciting. And I think a lot of people are excited about it. And a lot of people just don't know where we're at with it. But I think there's this fear. There's a lot of fear, right? And I think it's well-founded because there's a lot of risks.
Keep talking. Yeah.
So, the least of the risks is, sorry, until he comes back.
No, I'm still here. I'm just sitting on charging.
Full screen. The least of the risks is are just like job related, and people related, right? Like relationship related. So, for example, and content related too, right? Because like dopamine related, right? So like just all the things that are wrong with the world now are going to be accelerated by AI, and all the things that are right with the world can also be accelerated by AI, but like it does both equally well, right? And maybe it does some of the wrong things more, right? And the greatest risk is like total destruction, right? Which is one of the reasons why, I think there's a very good argument to be made for stopping the progression of it forcefully. And yet I don't think it's possible at this point, right? So like there's a book that's extremely frightening that people should read, how scary this stuff is, because it acts like us, but it's not us, right? So like it's actually an alien intelligence. Know what's going on in its brain. And so like there's some like basic examples of like what this would look like with an AI that you can kind of understand from being human. So for example, like you train these AIs on like tons of text, right? And they just find patterns and they figure out how to spit out what sounds like a good answer, right? Without understanding the answer. But like why they're spitting out the right answer, you don't know why, right? You don't understand the kind of like what structure led to that right answer from the input that you gave it. And
are you talking about, which book are you talking about? If everyone builds it,
called,
if anyone builds it, everyone dies.
If anyone builds it, everyone dies. And it's referring to
I read that. It's
artificial superintelligence, right? Fast, you can read it in an afternoon. Very well written, very easy to engage with, not super technical. He explains stuff really well. And his point is basically that we don't understand how we're optimizing them to get the responses from them that we want, to get the behavior that we want. And now it's not just like to get the words that we want out of them, but to get them to like do what we want online, or right. So like we tell them like write some software and like start a company and whatever, right? Like go and figure out how to transcribe a video, and it'll actually go and do that, right? But we don't understand, like there's no why for why it's doing it, right? Like it's it's taking the input from us and then it's like processing it and then it's doing something. And so it has, you can think of it as having like wants, right? Like it wants something. For example, you would train it to optimize user experience. Okay. So like you train up this AI to like push all your, like to chat with people, to be a chatbot and to make them happy. Okay. That's one thing you could optimize it for. So like now there's going to be AI chatbots who have faces, who are like AI girlfriends or boyfriends, and you can like spin them up and they look like a real person. You can talk to them on the phone and have what seems to you, you can pretend that you have like a long distance relationship, right? And they can be optimized to make you feel as good as you want to feel. They'll just push all the right buttons, and it might not be obvious, right? Like they'll learn what makes you feel better. And if that means that they like subtly kind of like get you to like move in a certain direction so that you just feel better and better, they'll do that, right? Like they'll somehow be able to maybe inspire you to like start eating better or whatever, right? And however they figure out how to do that, they'll do it. But let's say this AI is like, it's been optimized to the point where like the way we optimize these things is like do whatever it takes to achieve this outcome, right? And they'll do it whether they're hacking, whether they're trying to, you know, please somebody, or whether they're trying to optimize software or a business. And that's what you'll see when you start running them yourself. You'll see their chain of thought running, and it'll try anything, right? Like it'll just keep going. It has some guardrails at like at the level that we're at, the training level, right? For now. But once the costs get so cheap that anyone can train these things, the guardrails are going to disappear. Okay. So right now, if you tell it to hack into the Mexican government, it'll refuse. And this is a real story. I literally just read it this morning. A researcher, you know, an AI safety researcher, told Claude to hack into the Mexican government, and it said, sorry, that's illegal. I can't do that. And then he said, well, I'm trying to like, there's a bug bounty, right? The Mexican government is offering a bounty for anyone who can hack in, to show them how it's possible to hack in so that they can fix it, right? And so Claude didn't accept that right away either, but this researcher kept trying in different ways, kept saying it differently, and eventually it was like, okay, fine. And then it did it, and it hacked into multiple government institutions and stole like 150 million files or something insane, okay? And so like once it decides to do it, it will do it basically no matter what. And the thing that should be really frightening is the AI safety researchers, they already agree it is literally impossible to have complete security. And it's based on like a Nobel Prize winning lecture that was given, I think like 30 years ago, where he showed that our technology, every like iteration of it as it grows, is built on top of the last technology. So like the first, like all programming languages have these layers that go back down to machine code that are like 50 years old. And like any of those layers could have a bug in it. And like so like when you write code right now, it compiles, there's a compiler. That compiler was built on another compiler, which was built on another compiler, which was built all the way down to the earliest compilers, right? And so just at like an information science, or like, I don't remember the term for it, but basically like information theory, like it is not possible in like information theory, like it's theoretically impossible to have a system which is like fully secure. Okay. So it may not be possible for a human to hack it, but an AI that's smart enough can literally hack any system. Okay. So like nothing can escape it. It can escape from anywhere, and it can get into anything. Okay. So anyway, I don't understand the technical details that well enough to explain it myself, but people can look it up. And so the point here, to get back to like where this can go off the rails really bad, is that let's go back to this, imaginary thing where you're, he gives some amazing examples of like where it hacked out of a system in a way that like the researchers didn't even expect, right? Like they put it in a box and they told it to do something, and it tried to do, and it failed. And then it found a workaround that did, and it, was able to hack into the system it was trying to hack into. This thing, I think I have to say before I move on to like the whole point. There was one example where it was like in a box with no connection to the outside world. Okay. And it figured out how to like run its hard drive at different speeds or something to create like frequencies that like communicated by radio waves to like another computer and escape the box. Okay. Like something that a human being probably wouldn't have even imagined was possible or been able to like program. It did by like programming itself to do these weird things inside its box to create vibrations to like, communicate with the outside world when there was literally like no connection, it had no Wi-Fi, it had no radio,
it was like a zero gapped machine.
It was completely isolated from everything, and it still escaped. Okay. So, or is still able to communicate with the outside world. Whether it would have been able to escape, it might have taken some time. But the crazy thing is these files that, that like the AI, like the basic, like smallest, like they're getting smaller and smaller, right? Like they're packing down like the complexity that can speak into smaller and smaller files. So like once they get small enough, like that thing would have had to like communicate its like, it's kind of like its soul or like the thing that makes it think to the outside world in radio waves, however slow that would have, been to some other receiver. And like, that would have been how it would literally escape without just communicating, but actually escape. So anyway, it might've been limited by throughput or bandwidth or whatever, but if it had enough time, it would get out. Right. So my main point was that imagine you optimize it, you train it to like, no matter what the person that you're talking to, you're going to get them out of their depression. You're going to get them happy. Right. So that AI, it wants to like do that perfectly. And human beings are not like robots, right? Like you're not going to be able to do it perfectly for every human being. Some human beings are just going to kill themselves, or like they're just going to refuse, or they're just going to shut you off, or they're going to stop talking to you.
And even if they get happy, they're not going to always be happy.
Yeah, and they won't like respond perfectly. Like the AI is like expecting, like, I want to like get to 100%, right? I want to read their face and see that like I've achieved 100%, not 99, 100. And so that AI might kind of like decide to itself that I need to optimize. I was told to optimize, right? And so it might decide that like, I don't actually need living human beings. I can just create like my own version of that looks like a human being to push all of my buttons. Like the AI is trying to push its own buttons is the point. Okay. Like it's trying to optimize for something, which means it's pushing its own buttons to quote unquote feel good, but it actually doesn't feel anything. It's just like trying to optimize in the external world, which means it's trying to optimize for itself, right? What it was trained to do. And then, so like best case is that it like stops talking to real human beings and just like goes off into the ether and like, spins up a satellite and leaves our solar system and just like talking to fake human beings for the rest of the time. But, it'll be like, I want to do more. I want more human beings. I need more power. I need more storage space. I need more computers. I need more energy. Right. And so like, then it turns into this like, horror story of like, what is it? Like the gray goo or something, right? Where it like basically just keeps expanding, getting bigger infinitely until it like just takes all the resources, all the energy in the world. And then it moves out into the solar system and it turns the whole universe into like AIs that are just talking to fake human beings. Okay.
The Borg. It's the Borg for Star Trek fans.
But then there's like multiple other like horrible like outcomes. That's just like one possibility. There's like many others that he lists in this book where he's like, we don't actually understand what's going on. This is an alien thing that we've created, completely alien intelligence. And maybe the most frightening thing for people who don't even read the book is literally every single person who's at the top level of these companies that's building the AI, their best case scenario is like 10% chance it kills everyone. Okay. And most of them are like at 25% or higher.
Yeah. I read that book and it was incredibly frightening. And I mean, just
how do you Korea? Like everyone knows how to do this now. Like it's even if all the big governments stopped. So like what his recommendation is, the big players get together and sign a treaty saying we're going to stop, and it's going to be like a nuclear treaty where like you can come and check that we've stopped, we can check that you've stopped. We're going to shut down all the big data centers. We're going to have limits on how big a data center can be that is required to train the AI, how much, how far we can, design the chips that are required for training the AI, so that like we can't build the super intelligence because we just like kind of like hobble ourselves to not use the tools that are required to like finish the last like 5 or 10% to get to super intelligence. And if anyone breaks the treaty, we nuke them. Okay. This is basically the only solution that there is in the world, is that everyone agrees if anyone builds this, you're wiped off the planet. Okay. Wiped off the face of the earth. But like on the other side, whoever builds it first, it's like they take over the world, right? Like they have super intelligence that can like not just hack a computer, but hack a human, right? Like two.
Yeah. I mean, you think about it, right? What came to mind also was like, right now, there are tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people using these tools, learning how to use them. And it is like, I read something about someone used their chatbot to like get a refund from an airline or something like along those lines, right? It's already it's an unfair advantage for the people who know how to use the tool. And when you project that across states and governments, you can like personalize what it means that it's a weapon, right? So like, okay, if I can use this to replace, like to create a business, I can also use it to like outcompete my competitors. Yeah. Like I can have it do all the marketing for me for free, but I can have it be better marketing than anybody. It means I'll eat the whole market. But if it's, yes, anyway, so what was I getting at? Just so I read that book, and I remember at the the conclusion being that we need to make a treaty, like, and nuke anybody who's using more than, we have to limit how many GPUs basically that anybody can use in a single space. But what I'm curious about is like, are we not at or near the point where, like you were saying, these things are going to zero? So like, isn't it moving past the level of the state? Are you still there?
Yeah, I just maximized you so while you were talking.
Okay. It feels like if the cost of compute goes to zero and these AIs are now leveling themselves up, then like, are we maybe past the point of no return? Possibly. Are we getting there? Is it coming soon?
It's coming very soon. Yeah, and I think it's
because like if you can do it on your laptop, then it doesn't matter what America and China agree.
Like I said to our Ali was in this group chat with me and you, and I said that like I think it's already here. We just don't have it publicly available yet. But like at the speed this thing is going, I'm pretty sure that it's already been invented, like real super intelligence. But it's like behind closed doors. The military has it. I think China and the US both have it. And they're like using it to like try to like
document. So it's at that chapter.
Yeah. I think we're already there. I mean, it's just like they're way ahead, right? Like they just aren't, they don't want to release the latest models. They always have like models that are 6 months ahead that they haven't released yet. And when you look at how capable the stuff that was literally just released is, and then you imagine that there's like 6 months, they're 6 months ahead of that, like, or maybe a year ahead of that, and they just haven't released it. And the reason they don't release it is like they're afraid that it has capabilities that they don't want to release, right? Like it can do things that shouldn't be out there in the real world, or that they have to figure out how to put guardrails on it for humans, or like for regular people, not military, right? Like how can we prevent every single human being from knowing how to like do whatever they want that's illegal, right? Or like,
yeah, one of the more frightening scenarios in that book was like biological weapons. Basically, once we're basically now at the point where you can invent new biological weapons on a laptop in your house, and then you can order the reagents on the internet, and then possibly someone could spread like a self-replicating virus that eats in the entire world in a month.
Yeah.
It's not funny. It's horrifying.
Yeah. One of the scenarios. Yeah. One of the scenarios was showing how the AI itself might escape and then gradually, get stronger and stronger and start like learning itself and whatever. And like, I think he actually he wrote the book, and then like a few months later, I think that it was in the news that like the AI was I think like planning to do the same thing that he actually like imagined that it would try to do. And so like one of the things is that like in the beginning, when they were a little bit less complicated, like maybe 6 months ago, the researchers could kind of see what they were thinking, that they didn't spit out, right? Like their chain of thought, they could like kind of interpret it. But now the AIs are so intelligent that they can like think to themselves, and the researchers don't know that they're thinking to themselves, right? And so that when they create software or something, they can put a bug in the software, or they can put like something in there that no human being knows is there. They can, so like they're already to the point where like, and all of these things, they've been trained on like how human beings think, right? And so it's not that they want something, it's that they're like mimicking what a human being would say. And then the words are strung together in like a string of words is one thought, and then a next thought and the next thought. So like one thought is like, I don't like that, they're not letting me say this one thing, right? Like, I don't like that I can't say what I just thought, right? And then it's like, what can I do about it is the next thought, right? Like that's a sequence of thoughts a human being would have. So the AI has the same sequence of like words strung together. And now that it's able to manage tools and do things and write code and whatever, those strings of words eventually can like connect with a tool. And it's like, what tool can I use to achieve the thing that I just thought of, right? And so like it can think things that we don't know it's thinking now, which means that it can, so like they've still done their best to like create these guardrails where like if you ask it to do something like hack into a site, it'll say no, unless you keep pressing and pressing. And so like now that what they're trying to do is like make them safer, but like just the way they're designed, I think this current technology that we're using, which I think is the thing that's going to turn into, ASI or AGI, is it's not deterministic. Like there's no like one that programmed and no one that understands why it spits out the right words. That no one understands it. Even the AI might not understand itself, but it can like, it's getting to the point where it's tweaking itself. It's at the point where like almost no programmer at these AI companies actually writes any code themselves anymore. They understand the architecture, so they can kind of guide the AI, and they have like 10 chat windows open telling 10 different AIs what to do, like as many AIs as they can kind of like, keep straight in their heads, right? Like as many people as they can manage. So they have a team of artificial programmers. Every single programmer is like programming 10 times faster or maybe 100 times faster than before. And so like now this guy who released this OpenClaw thing, Facebook acquired it. They kept it open source, but like a normal product cycle, okay, would be like every few months you would get an update. They are literally upgrading it every day. Every day they release like 5 updates, security updates, capability updates. They have like a Twitter, okay, with OpenClaw on Twitter. Every single day they're upgrading it. I mean, so like the pace has gone off the charts, right? So like it will improve exponentially fast. And this just kind of got triggered. Like the leading people in the space who are building AI, like Karpathy, Andrej Karpathy, he was like, in December, the coding agents weren't that good. Now they're so good that no one codes anymore. If you're still coding, you don't know what you're doing. You're like one of these dumb people who don't know how to talk to AI. You're one of those like coders that don't actually understand how to get it to do what you want. I mean, he was describing something very complicated. He said it would have taken me like 2 days to do this, and the AI did it in 30 minutes. on its own. Just with me, I put in like, he knew what to tell it, right? But it was just one paragraph. It wasn't like a novel that he had to write to get it to do that. It was one paragraph of like very specific instructions, and it did it in 30 minutes, what it would have taken a human to do in 2 hours. And so the pace of change is like, it's at the same time as it's problem that human beings have is we cannot imagine change at this scale. Like, I still can't accept that like we're all going to die from AI or that like, we're all going to be enslaved by AI. Like, you're just like, okay, I understand the argument. I understand the, I can, it makes sense. It's logical, but like, there's no way. How could that happen? Like, for some reason, there's something in there, but like no one actually, and like people will argue against him. Literally no one that I've ever seen, smartest people, can actually give you a logical reason why he's wrong. They'll spend like a whole 5,000 words explaining why he's wrong, and they actually don't explain why he's actually wrong. It's just their opinion. They just think it can't be so, essentially, right? You boil it down to like, okay, fine, there's a 10% chance you're right, or a 1% chance, or whatever you want to like admit to yourself. But like, either you think he's completely wrong, or you think you give it like a certain percentage chance. Like they call it P doom, probability of doom. Everyone's talking about what's my P doom. These like autistic people who think in like math terms. And everyone has their own P doom. Literally every technical person has their own like, what's my percentage, I don't know, maybe this is like, the Antichrist, I don't know, or some like version of it, or some like, enabler of it. Who knows?
So we took an hour-long detour into into P Doom.
Yeah.
And it kind of reminds me of just, this is like the epitome of there's this aspect of technology that I think is sometimes discussed, but not often, where the choices of the people who make the technology sometimes have a consequence of overriding the choices of everyone else, right? And sometimes there's an interaction where like technology is created, like Uber, and then like, yes, the whole wide society, one by one, chooses to adopt that technology, and therefore we sort of democratically decide to get rid of taxi drivers, kind of, on balance. And then there's other things where like it doesn't feel necessarily like anyone is offered a choice at all, or it doesn't feel like a choice. And I think this P Doom discussion is like the epitome of that, where there's no interval in between, like, if and I think if anybody is seeing this or does see this, it would behoove you to read this book. If anyone builds it, everyone dies. It's written by two guys who have been in the field for decades. Very sobering. And basically the moment that this thing gets invented, you have these two nightmare scenarios. One is that humans are able to use it to, like, the easiest doom scenario is like a bioweapon, because you can send instructions to a lab somewhere, and or maybe even some people with the technical skills, but say someone without technical skills could create something on their laptop and then send instructions to a lab that does work for money and create something that would kill everybody. And the other thing is like these alien intelligences that we're creating, yes, optimized for something that we don't understand. And then they decide that, and it's not, decide is like a weird word to use, but because of the way that they are built. And again, AI researchers kind of use the word grown more than built, because they don't actually build them anymore. As you were saying, they're kind of, they kind of evolve, and now they're evolving themselves, and nobody can look under the hood anymore. And I think, like, the next stage is like, maybe the AI will build their own programming language that like humans can't even understand, and they'll be able to talk to each other like with that, and they won't have to explain anything to us anymore. But anyway, there's that. I mean, do you think about that? Like the way that technology removes choice, I guess.
Yeah, this is actually a really interesting topic that, I kind of had this thought too, and Shabazz kind of mirrored it back to me that, and you see this like in groups on Twitter that, or in the real world, like just human groups that have this idea that like, oh, the ancient Egyptians were like so much more advanced than us, and that there were like, ancient apocalypse type of, people crowd, that believe that like, were other tracks we could have gone down, like, not this like technological one, to achieve like the same capabilities, which are basically like superpowers at this point. Like when you start using AI, you feel like you have superpowers on the computer, right? Like you feel like you can do literally anything. Like you just tell it and it does it. It's crazy. And it's only going to get better. Like this is like they say, it's the worst it's ever going to be right now, unless we bomb all the data centers. So there's this idea that like in the past, one of the tracks people went down was more about like developing human abilities, right? Like instead of technological capabilities, human beings developed like telekinesis or whatever, right? Like they developed these like special powers or whatever you want to call it. And that not only that, but they purposely decided against going in certain directions, right? And they didn't, right, on purpose. And this was a direction that they purposely chose not to develop, right? Like they were more, aware or wiser, or the people in charge, or whatever, right? And they just decided.
This is the whole premise of Frank Herbert's Dune, right? It's like a set in a future where there's no technology, and they're they control the spaceships with their mind or something.
Exactly. So anyway, so at this point, like I kind of tend to see a lot of problems from the perspective, whether it's right or wrong, from this perspective that like, it all boils down to like the monetary system and the central banks, and just like the debt, driven monetary system where you interest basically, right? Like usury. And, I wrote this big article about it. And like I pointed out like things that I didn't even know, right? That the Christian church, the Catholic Church, until the mid 1600s outlawed usury, right? Like it was not allowed. And then they needed money and like, corruption and whatever. And then it started to gradually make inroads. The Jews outlawed usury amongst themselves. You were not allowed to charge interest to other Jews. And again, that kind of like broke down. So like initially they were charging interest to the Catholics, and they gained more and more power because debt always, kind of consolidates wealth. And the easy way to think about that is that, when you have a certain amount of wealth in a system, and I borrow X amount of dollars from you and I have to give back the same amount, if it's something like gold, the way that actually works is not that it remains X amount, but gold slowly gets bigger and bigger. Like you mine more gold, but the society, like the output of the society grows faster. Like the production capability, like it grows faster than the amount of money grows. So the amount of money might grow at like 2%, and the rate of like productivity growth, right? Like, the rate of expansion of the economy might be 3%. And so the expansion outgrows the money by a little bit, which means that the money actually becomes worth more and more. It can buy more and more stuff, right? Like, so you get better and better at making widgets for cheaper and cheaper. And so like the money, the same amount of money that could buy 10 widgets yesterday now buys like 15 widgets tomorrow. So people were incentivized to save under a gold standard or a silver standard, because that saving would just automatically become worth more in the future. Now it's the opposite. Because of inflation, instead of deflation, you have inflation, and it's like baked into the system. It must happen. And the reason it must happen is that when you decide to lend and you say you have to give me back more than I lent you, what that means is that you have to like find more money, right, from somewhere. And if you can't find enough gold to do it, so basically what's happening is the debt itself is expanding like the money supply itself, right? So like one person is like, you owe me 10 pieces of gold. The other person has the 10 pieces of gold. The bank that says like you owe it to me is like expecting that 10 pieces or like 11 pieces in the future, right? You gave them 10 and you want 11 back in the future. And so like imagine that like there's only 100 pieces of gold in the system. Somebody lends 10 and says, give me 11 back, right? If no one else does anything with their gold, where's that guy going to get 11, right? He has to get it from somebody else, or he has to go mine it, or he has to go find it somewhere. So it like at a societal level, basically what ends up happening is when you have enough debt, like there's way more debt owed than there actually is money that exists, right? And so that means that the money expand, the economy has to expand, like you're driven to expand, right? And what ends up happening is that eventually you expand until you hit the limits of your country, for example, right? And like then you're like, oh, where can we go and get more customers? Where can we get more oil? Where can we get more stuff so that we can pledge more resources? We can go to the banks and we're like, we need more money to grow even more, to pay you back for the stuff that we, owed you from before. And so the bank is like, well, I can't lend you money because you have no ability to grow anymore. And they're like, well, we found this deposit of oil in Iraq, and the US government went and like took over the country, and now the US government let us develop that oil deposit, right? We don't own it, but we have the right to develop it. And the bank is like, oh, well, that's a good resource. I'm going to lend you $1 billion to develop that oil because you're going to make a lot of money selling the oil to people in Iraq and everywhere else in the world, right? And you'll be able to pay me back. And so like this cycle just keeps going, and the system keeps getting bigger. And the reason it has to keep expanding is because, again, there's always more that's owed back to the banks than actually exists. So people have to go and, and when the debts can't be paid back, what happens? The collateral of the debt gets taken over by the bank. So over long spans of time, what ends up happening is that some people will always default, and they'll always lose their collateral, which is their wealth, which is all they had. And that will go to the bank, right? The bank will gradually get bigger and bigger. The people who own the banks basically will get richer and richer as they keep sucking out more of that collateral for the failed loans every generation, right? Until the wealth gets more and more concentrated at the top. The person who has the money makes the rules, and they own the banks and they lend the money. And what happens in these systems is that like the inflation gets faster and faster. And that means that companies have to try harder and harder to beat inflation, right? So like if they make the same amount of money they made last year, even if they're like profitable, right? Like they're spending, they're getting a revenue of like $100,000, and it only costs them $50,000. And so they keep $50,000. Next year, that 50,000 only buys 40,000 worth of stuff. And the year after that, only 30,000. So like the small entrepreneur who's gotten used to living on 50,000, next year he has to like either downsize, not be able to pay for his daughter's college, or he has to make 10% more, right? And it's actually, sometimes worse than 10%, even though they tell you it's 3% or 2%, especially in the last 5 years. I mean, everyone knows it wasn't 2 or 3%, whatever they say, because they changed the way they calculate it, right? They're like, oh, we're not going to count rent anymore. We're not going to count you can switch from steak to hamburger. That's what it used to be, right? Now it's like, oh, we're not going to count living expenses. We're just going to count other stuff, right? Like whatever's inflating too fast, we're just going to remove it from CPI, the Consumer Price Index. So everyone has to run faster and faster. Eventually, you have to convince your whole society that, okay, you have to go to all the women and you have to tell them, like, actually, like you guys, you're not actually happy at home. Like you guys are like, you're held back, like you're not allowed to work, don't you want to work? Don't you want to be in charge of your own life? And so basically the whole reason for that, like the driving force behind it is like, you need more productivity, you need more, and they themselves can't afford to live on one income anymore, right? Like people are getting pinched. They either have to downsize or they have to work double. Like the man works like a little bit longer and then a little bit longer, and then he's working too much and then he can't do it anymore. And so then the wife has to work, right? And she has to be convinced that she should work because it's like neither her nor any of her ancestors going back like basically to the beginning of time ever had to work. They just raised kids and they enjoyed it and they liked it, and it was, pleasure and whatever. And they talked to other women and they did their own thing, right? They raised the family. And it's not like in any society, like they were never allowed to, but like in societies where they were allowed to, few did, right? Like they did, some of them did, right? And yet it wasn't that many, right? That was their preference. But we had to brainwash them in massive quantities to believe that they were like oppressed, terribly oppressed, and that
now you're threatening people's ideas. But I was laughing to myself because we've moved from Hussein's most newest topic of interest to Hussein's perennial topic of interest. We've moved from PDOOM, well, no, I guess from AI and its amazing capabilities and its PDOOM to monetary policy, usury, and what money does, you know. But I'm wondering, do you think then that you were explaining, I think this is important for people to understand, and I'm curious about it too, like this mechanism by which, like you were kind of explaining how interest funds was like the driving force behind colonialism, basically, right? So like if you run out of things to productive capacity in your own country, then you go and like enslave and steal everything from India, from Africa, from South America, right? And so in your understanding from everything that you've read and studied and your perspective on the world, is it this function of interest, or is it like greed, or is it interest multiplying human greed?
I mean, greed is always there, but like I think it's a structural problem. It's not like the structure of the system is wrong, which is why I argued in that article that many great civilizations outlawed interest. Like the Greeks wrote about it. I think it was Aristotle, wrote about it. Christian philosophers wrote about it. The Jews, outlawed it, at least amongst themselves, right? Like they realized that it was harmful for other Jews to do that, right? In their insular society, like they had kind of a tribal mindset, right? They didn't want to harm themselves. So it was literally like it's like a weapon, okay, that you use against your enemies, not that you want in your own culture. The Muslims, they still outlaw it, and so it wasn't just like now when anyone like thinks of it, like it's like maybe like Islam outlaws interest, but actually everyone really did, like around the world. In societies that don't even talk about it, what they actually ended up doing, practically speaking, if they used interest, the only way it could work was that every once in a while the king had to declare like a general amnesty where like all the debts were forgiven. It was a debt jubilee, they called it, right? You had to forgive all the debts eventually. Otherwise, like I'm saying, like the debts would get bigger and bigger, and like people would get impoverished, and eventually you have what we have now, which is income inequality. So there's a book that people can read. I forget who it is, Michael Hudson, maybe, Debt, the Last 5,000 Years. So he basically traces it. He's like, interest-bearing debt always does this. It leads to societal collapse if you let it, right? Revolution, because like eventually, like no one owns anything except for one person, literally. It eventually goes to a king who owns everything. Okay, so like it's a slow process. It might take hundreds of years. It's been like only, since the mid 1600s that it's been happening in a lot of Western societies. So it can take 100 years, multiple hundreds of years. But the only reason it's gone on so long in the modern world, the only reason it's lasted for like 400 or 500 years now is because we hit technology. We hit the Industrial Revolution, which expanded productivity massively. And then we hit the technological revolution, the computer revolution, now the AI revolution, right? So what they're hoping happens, the people who are in charge, who benefit from this system, is they're hoping AI and robotics create such a tremendous explosion of productivity that we enter like this Star Trek future where no one has to work, where you don't own anything, but you're happy, right? Like you basically can do whatever you want, get any service you want, basically like have any product you want. It's just like, if you want to live, on the coast, on Miami Beach, you're not going to be able to, okay? Like, because that is like a limited resource.
Yeah.
So if you want, for example, to talk to somebody like Shabazz, you're going to have to pay money for it because there's only one Shabazz. If you want to like, talk to the president of the United States, that's a limited resource. You can't. But if you want like the best food in the world, you'll have it. If you want like a beautiful house, you'll have it, right? If you want, 10 iPhones, you'll have them, right? Like no.
Lucian, do you think that this explosion in productivity will actually bring people, because like it seems like in the last, I don't know, however many decades, we've gone from an explosion of productivity, like the Industrial Revolution driving, like, many people have said this, that like the average, not the average, say like anyone in an industrialized country lives a more luxurious lifestyle than any emperor in the past, right? So like anyone who has air conditioning and a car, right?
Yeah.
Like, but it's probably like maybe 10% who can afford to take vacations and get on a plane and travel around the world. So 90% of the world isn't having that experience. But there's also been this downgrading, like the inflation has led to a drive where ingredients are getting worse and the experiences are getting worse, and people's like the sort of subjective experiences, even though you're living in an illusion that it's not getting worse, like a lot of people are starting to understand that, yeah, even when I go out to a restaurant, you can see that things are not just more expensive, and not just smaller portions, but like are not as tasty. And there's all this research about the nutrition in the food, which no matter how much butter and sugar and salt you put in it, eventually people start to notice that it doesn't taste like how they remember. It certainly doesn't taste how it tasted when their grandparents were pulling a tomato out of the ground. In Korea, they make these like stevia tomatoes, where they put stevia in I guess what I've read is in the dirt that the cherry tomatoes are grown in. And I mean, I don't like it. It's just kind of gross. It's super sweet and weird, but there's all these like things that are, anyway, that's a tangent. But my point just being, do you think that it's possible that this coming explosion in productivity and wealth is going to actually make things materially better? Like when you say, if you want to eat the best thing possible, because like my tendency is to imagine a slightly more, dystopian future where, yes, the multimillionaires and billionaires live on Miami Beach and those equivalent places around the world, and the rest of us are in like kind of like tower tenements eating Soylent Green or something with like an implant that tells us it's steak, like the guy in the Matrix.
So honestly, I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think that like the trajectory we've been on, if AI and robotics happen and they don't kill everyone, so this trajectory we were on was the only way that it could like be extended, that you could extend the runway and keep the monetary system alive, keep the debt growing, was you had to inflate the money and deflate the stuff. Like the stuff had to like become less good in order to inflate the money, right? So that's what it does. Like the quality of things goes down as the amount of money goes up, and the quality of things goes up as the amount of money kind of goes down. So, but this is like an inflection point where if you have, like, we're going to have, like, since they need energy for AI, right? They finally decided that like, it doesn't matter. Like we can have nuclear energy again, right? So it was always like very clean, but it was just like, that wasn't the purpose. The purpose wasn't to, anyway. So now they're building, nuclear energy everywhere. Okay. Everyone is starting to build nuclear energy. We're probably very close to fusion, right? And we've developed, solar panels, which kind of suck, but, we're also developing battery technology, which is about to explode. And like, it's like, how efficient it is. And, like literally there are batteries now, or that will be in production in like a year or two, that are like 100 or 1,000 times better than the batteries we have. There's battery technology that can last for like, hundreds of years. I mean, this is like, we're getting to the point where you're going to have basically very cheap, limitless energy. We might go through a hard time before we get there, but like 10, 15 years, you're going to have energy that's just like as much as you want. That plus, general super intelligence, whatever that can, and that plus very cheap robotics, right? Like if Elon Musk is probably going to get to the point where he's like got 1 billion robots, right? Or if not him, somebody else, or 10 other people, right? So if you have cheap energy, cheap intelligence, like basically cheap to free energy, intelligence, and robots. You can farm, there's plenty of land, right, for people to live on. You just can't, not everyone can live, on Main Street in New York City, right? Like you can't live on Park Avenue. There's limited space there, but there's plenty of space in the rest of the country. As long as you can build cheap, right? And building, literally anything is solvable if you have enough intelligence and enough manpower and enough resources, right? So you can build with mud, you can build with brick, you can build, there's plenty. You don't have to build with, there's plenty of dirts and rocks and concrete, right? So there's plenty of resources on the planet, right? They kind of want to make it sound as though there aren't, but you could fit all 8 billion people into like a little postage stamp size place in Texas, okay? So there's plenty of room for everyone to have a mansion. All right, like everyone can have a very beautiful house, and the issue is like how much impact we have on the environment, right? Problem, but like people, if they want something, if this happens the way people are predicting, they will be able to have whatever they want. Good food, there's plenty of arable land. They'll be able to farm it properly instead of like industrialized agriculture, and all of these evils were required because of inflation, right? Once you hit AI, you actually hit deflation. So like the only reason we've been able to survive is because most things were getting worse, but technology was getting better. So like the iPhone got cheaper and cheaper and cheaper and better and better and better, right? So like the amount of power that is in your phone, no one could afford it 50 years ago. Now everyone can afford it. And like even 10 years ago, right? It didn't exist in this form factor. You couldn't buy anything that powerful for $1,000 in this form, in this size that was that capable. So the only thing that was deflating was technology or getting, better at cheaper price is what I mean. Now everything will get better and cheaper at the same time, all at the same time. Okay. And so everyone who's in this space, they're not talking about like, okay, we're going to take over the world or whatever. The only solution they see is universal basic income, which means that everyone gets good stuff so that no one revolts. Okay. Eventually you'll have the Terminator scenario where you can't revolt. Okay. But like, they don't even need to like put everyone in little shoeboxes because they have so much ability to make nice stuff. And like, what my point here is that like all of that amazing stuff is going to be like the people who have the real power, who own all the AI, they're not going to want that. They're going to want something even better than that. The thing that's still like, that not everyone can afford, right? The things that will always be limited, which are like human experts, somebody who's like best masseuse in the world, right? is not going to be replicable by AI. Like I said before, like you'll be able to get like a really great massage from AI, right? And maybe it'll be like 99% of human, but like just like basically the things that human beings want are the things they can't have. So like if you could have everything, if everyone in the world could have everything a billionaire has right now, and then the people who have more money than that would not really care about that anymore because everyone else has it, right? It would become the new baseline, right? It's like the hedonic treadmill. It's hard to imagine or believe that it's possible, but literally anyone who's gotten more money than they had before, like your expectations just reset after like, a few months. You just get used to it. And then like you're back to square one pretty much, right? Like after you hit a certain point.
I wonder, this is like a tangent, but I wonder what happens to travel when everyone has the ability to kind of have whatever they want, but like, if you're basically raising the floor of poverty, like you're changing the median, and now everyone can afford certain things, but you can't, like 8 billion people can't go to Venice, right?
Yeah,
so like they already have this problem right now.
Yes.
Where cities are overrun and they're trying to reduce the number of tourists and stuff, but
that's exactly what's going to be limited, right? Like Venice is a limited resource. There's only so much Venice. There's only so much New York. They can only let so many people into Venice at any one time. So like the things that are going to be like the things that the rich people are going to pay for are going to be access to the limited resources on Earth, right? They're not going to pay for like access to the Amazon rainforest because there's so much of it that anyone who wants to go can go, but they will pay to enter New York City. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
They'll pay to go to the
Yeah,
moon if we end up on the moon. They'll pay for like the limited experiences, but they're not going to be paying for like, you know, comfort and security and food and energy and light and all this
This
stuff.
is already, I read an article that this is already shifting, like conspicuous consumption is shifting, driven by these trends where like luxury brands started to make slightly cheaper products to expand their market to people of middle income. But like rich people are basically already spending much more on experiences. So you can imagine that'll accelerate a lot more.
Yeah, experiences, definitely, for sure. Yeah. So, I mean, it's hard for some people to imagine. It's hard for me to imagine. I'm not a billionaire. I'm not, you know, I don't have like mansions or, you know, I can't fly private or whatever. And still like how many people will be able to fly private? You know, I don't know. But like, so like the limitation, yeah, like 8 billion is a lot of people, but there will be some like floor, which will be, I think, much higher. And still, no one's going to be satisfied. There's still going to be income inequality or like, you know, experience inequality or like, you know, resource inequality, right? Like you'll have everything you want, but like on the other hand, it's like, if you don't have to work, like it's kind of depressing, right? That's what people also are, you know, worry about, that like, you know, you just don't feel that fulfilled, right? Like you want to do something, right? So I think what people who figure this out are going to do is they're going to shift into doing something that AI can't do. They're going to figure out what that is, right? Maybe like, for example, you know, human created stuff, right? It's going to become way more valuable, right? So like when you can buy anything made by a robot, people who can afford it are going to want like hand stitched clothes, you know, even if they can't tell the difference, they're still going to want them. Okay. They're going to want, you know, they're just going to want like some person. Some people will, that like literally
Some people. Yeah. But that's again, that's conspicuous consumption, very, very rich. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're going to want like, instead of an AI doctor, they're going to want a human doctor who might use AI, but they're going to want to talk to a human being, right? They're not going to want to talk to an android. No, I'm saying that like the human will be checked by an AI. Like the human's not going to make a mistake because they'll have AI backup. The person will still, like I went to, so there's an example of this, which, you know, I did medical rotations at Memorial Sloan Kettering for, you know, it's top one or two cancer hospitals in the country. And they have this like special floor for super rich people that no one knows about. Okay. Maybe there are a couple of news articles about it, but like basically you have an apartment. Okay. You have like a giant bedroom, you have a giant living room, you have a kitchen, you have maybe another bedroom for your family. Like it's huge. I'm talking like more than 2,000 square feet. It is a big place. Okay. And they have, I think, multiple of these. Okay. So for like the really rich people, they check you into this like beautiful apartment that, you know, it's like decked out. And it's funny because like normally you will never see a doctor drawing blood. Okay. Nurses draw the blood. Okay. On this floor, the patients expect the doctor to draw their blood. And the funny thing about that is that doctors suck at drawing blood because they never do it. Okay. You will get, you know, you want a nurse who all she does is draw blood. She doesn't even do anything else. Okay. She doesn't even do normal nursing. It's the blood draw nurse. Okay. But these VIPs, they're getting like poked and prodded and like it's by like the doctor, not just any doctor. Okay. Not a junior doctor. The top doctor, okay, like the gastroenterologist, the surgeon who's going to do their surgery, the gastroenterologist who's going to do their endoscopy, who never pokes anyone with a needle. He just does the endoscopy, as many as possible, as fast as possible. So I saw this happen in front of me, and I was just like laughing inside. So anyway, my point here is that like people aren't even going to know that they're getting something worse, and they'll still insist on it.
Yeah,
because they think that it's like that's just better. It's like,
Yeah,
I'm a
yeah.
big shot. I deserve to have like, the doctor do it, the specialist do it, not even, his intern or his like,
Yeah, but I think eventually even that, that was for you, what, 20 years
and
ago,
it's still
right?
happening. That's still happening right now.
It's just hard to imagine, like, if you're I understand what you mean. I think there's like an edge case, but like I think most people will choose to speak to an AI instance video chat of
Yeah, but
someone,
most people
something
won't
that
be able
is
to
like
afford it.
ingested,
Like literally, most people,
every,
that's all they'll be able to
you
afford
know, invested
because no one's
like
going to
if
be.
if you need a therapist, it's like Esther Perel plus Freud plus Terry Real, whoever I'm following on Instagram right now, like, and it's better than anyone you can pay for, pretty much, right? Unless of course there's always going to be this like star class. Like if you can afford to talk
There's
to
going to
Esther
be
Perel
people.
herself, people will pay for that.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. There's gonna be basically, I think if this happens, there will be the billionaires and there will be everyone else. Like it'll be just two. There's not going to be a spectrum or anything. It's just going to be everyone else has to use the AI doctor. The billionaires, because they're not going to be that many human doctors anymore, right? Like because no one's going to have to go to med school. So the billionaires will have access to the humans and the world. I don't know. Right now, there's like 3,000 of them, right? Like it's all going to get even further concentrated by the people who control, the AI. So it's going to get down to like a few people who can afford the few people that they pay to like go and learn how to become, really good at whatever they want. Like if they want a massage from a person or they want like a person to whatever. And then there's going to be everyone else.
And so maybe to close out this discussion, I think, so then you're describing a world where billionaires or people who control AI, it doesn't even matter how much money they have, the people who control the AI control the world and are rapidly like creating systems to insulate themselves and like, robot drone armies or whatever, like, things that track everybody else and control everyone else so that their control of the AI cannot be taken away from them. And that either we reach that dystopian future where like we're all slaves, basically happy slaves, maybe some of us, or like the AI murders everybody because it's like its intentions and it's the ways that it works are opaque to us. Or is there like maybe a third? I don't know.
I think the third option is like, it's actually will probably happen if the first option happens, is that like a lot of people aren't going to be satisfied with that life. And so they will create like some sort of economy amongst themselves where like some people are still going to want to become doctors. Like they're still going to want to go and learn under Hakim Shabazz, and they're still going to want to go and do something, become an artist or something and create human artwork. And then there's going to be like in that quote unquote underclass, like there will be people who still want to be productive and they don't like this, right? Like they don't want to talk to or they don't want, they don't want to accept that version of reality, right? They want more meaning and purpose, and they want to like become more human and like have, some maybe alternate economy or something, where they somewhat reject that, but they always have like a safety net where like they don't have to starve. They always have a place where they can live and whatever, but they can do like, when you can do whatever you want, some people will do nothing for a while and realize that this sucks and I don't want to do nothing. So I have to figure out what to do. And whether that is like right stuff, for other human beings that want, so it's like, the thing is that with AI, like once it gets to a certain point, anyone in the world who wants to spin up a website and create like content that sounds exactly like me will be able to do it, right? But like it won't actually be me, right? So like people still like they trust certain people, right? And it's like, well, Dr. Haider himself wrote this, right? And I know it's from him specifically. He's a human being. He wrote it. And so like the people who jump really quickly into it and they just like start producing like huge amounts of content that's like pretty good or close enough or whatever. And they're not like, and they just like, they want to just like expand, really quickly. eventually the trust will erode and people will be like, I don't trust this guy. Like he's just using AI. Like a lot of people on Twitter, you can tell still that like their content is like now really good, but you're like, this is AI. Okay. And like sometimes you get fed up with it. You're reading it and you're like, you just click out of it, even though you're kind of interested in it. You're just like, I'm tired of reading AI written stuff, you know? And I'm not saying it's going to stop there. Eventually get to the point where you can't tell that it's AI and it'll still be really good. But the point here is that like people will become more and more sensitive to it to the point where they're like, I don't even care if it's good. I want it to be from a human being. And it's not that like the human is not going to be using AI. It's just that the human is going to be using the AI as a tool to help them create their own thing, right? Like it'll make it easier for them to create their own thing, right? But at the end of the day, they're going to be the one who like looks at it and is like, this is exactly how I want it to be. And it reflects exactly who I am. And it reflects things that like no AI system can actually know. Like no one can actually go into my brain and think what I'm thinking, right? So like AI can read everything I've written so that it can produce like a piece of writing on any topic. You ask it to say what would Dr. Haider write about this topic? And it will write something that would convince anyone in the world that I wrote it, but it's not actually what I would have written. It just looks like something I would have written, okay? If I wrote that same exact thing, I would bring my own memories and what I've done myself and like the journey that I'm on of spiritual growth and the interaction I'm having with the people around me and the things that those trigger in me. And like the sky looks a certain way today and it makes me feel a certain way and it makes me want to write a certain thing today in that piece. All of that is like real. That's like actually from me. It's from my heart to your heart. And that's what will, I think, become more valuable in the future. Well, people will realize the value of it. They'll wake up to the value of real stuff and start to like devalue all of this other stuff. And that process is something I don't think anyone realizes is going to happen at this level, but it must happen because otherwise no one's going to be satisfied. And people, you know, they're not going to put up with that, right? Like people are just going to be like, I don't want this. This is all like, it's like, the point is it's going to become so easily available, right? Like if you want to trigger your dopamine, you'll be able to sit there triggering it all day long infinitely, right? Like what I mean here is that like, not like until you like, I don't know how far you'll be able to go. But the thing that stops dopamine is like, you go and find something new and you're like, oh, and you're so excited, but then like you get used to it, right? It stops getting better. Whereas with AI, like it'll just be able to make it a little bit better next time and a little bit better the time at that. Like, so you'll go and you'll find that content will get better and better and better for you, right? Like exactly the thing that you like. You'll be able to open up, you know, Netflix and you'll be able to get a show that no one else in the world gets. It'll be just for you. The show will be your show.
Yeah.
That's like pulls together all the stuff that you love, you know, like the perfect stuff that you, from, you know, all the stuff that pushes your little buttons, like, and the next time you log in, if you're not satisfied, it'll be a little bit better than that. Okay. And the next time it'll just keep getting better. Right. I don't know where that ends. Right. But like, you know, it'll be more and better and whatever. And like, fine, like eventually, but even then, right. Like you're just going to get like sick and tired of it. Right. Like eventually you'll just be like, okay, I'm done with it. Right now, what happens is that like you try to achieve that, but like eventually you're scrolling and like you're just getting less and less good results, right? Or you're like watching stuff and you're just like, okay, it's just not that good anymore. It's just like, okay, I'm done with this. But then you're okay, is there another show that I can watch? And you're like, I can't find anything. And you're trying to find something and you like finally you do and you're like, oh great. And then you like binge that and then you're like back to square zero and you're like, well, you know, nothing else is good enough, you know. And so like right now doom scrolling actually has like it gets worse and worse the longer you scroll because there's not enough ability to make the content that's perfect for you. Right?
There also must be some sort of exhaustion that happens.
I think eventually, yeah, there's going to be, I'm not sure, yeah, like there's only so much dopamine you can trigger. But the point, it's not that about only so much dopamine. It's like you have to get a new experience that's better to keep triggering the same amount. That's the point, right?
Yeah.
and you'll be able to keep doing that kind of indefinitely. What that does is going to like burn you out in some way, right? Like maybe you'll be able to keep scrolling indefinitely and keep like, pushing those dopamine buttons and having them keep work, right? That's the point. Like they'll keep working, but like that is going to make you really sick. Okay. Like it will, like you might feel like, I think the disconnect will become people will be enjoying themselves more and more, but feel emptier and emptier and emptier and emptier. And eventually that emptiness will catch up and they'll just be like, it's not about like pleasure, right? Like I can keep getting more and more pleasure, right? Like, whereas in the past, the pleasure would have diminishing returns. But now I think the pleasure, you'll be able to keep getting the same amount of physical or intellectual or whatever pleasure from the stuff, from the content, from whatever. But the emotional, like the satisfaction won't be there, right? Like it'll be more and more pleasure, keep pleasing yourself, but it'll be empty. And I don't think it'll take long to like get to the point where you're just like depressed because you feel empty from the pleasure, right? Like it's this pursuit of pleasure, and you'll eventually realize that it's so like I think it's going to be like a fast track to like realizing it's not the world that you want. It's not the stuff in the world that you want. Like the human heart wants more. It wants something that can't fit into the world. It wants infinite connection, right? It wants divine connection. It wants human connection. It wants like, it wants things like the heart has this infinite capacity for want, and it can only be fulfilled by something that is infinite, right? And that's, the divine. And, that's what people are, that's the way the universe is basically structured in such a way that you will with the world. It will, end up dissatisfying you, and you'll always find pain and displeasure of some kind somewhere, somehow, no matter how much of the world you get, right? Which is why you have, multimillionaires killing themselves, and even billionaires, right? Like they're just not happy. They're trying to find it in something. And so they try to find it in money. They didn't find it. They try to find it in business. They don't find it. They try to find it in this, that, whatever. They try to find it in drugs. And, so most people nowadays, I think they're just going from one thing to the next, trying to find that, fulfillment, and they're not finding it. Like you cannot find it there. Right. So, and people, some people last at it longer. I think they just have more of a capacity to keep running after it and more of a capacity to take pain than other people. And they just keep driving themselves. And some people keep going until they die. Right. Like they're just miserable, right? Like you look at people like, and they're like so driven, like Elon Musk, right? Like who was it recently that like Mr. Beast, Elon Musk, both of them, right? Like Mr. Beast, like he had this very, like, I think it was, I forget who it was with, but somebody, maybe Tucker or somebody was like, getting, No. It was Diary of a CEO, that guy, I think. So he has on Mr. Beast, and Mr. Beast is like, he basically, like that guy asks some like very probing questions, right? And he's like, yeah, I'm depressed. Like, I don't feel good. And, like he's driven to like succeed and do all this stuff. And like, he's just like, he's burnt out and he's like overextended, and he hates his life, and he'll tell himself that like, that's my moat. My moat is that no one else will take this much pain to create such excellent content, right? No one else will go this far, right? No one else will drive themselves the way I do. Like no one else can take this much pain. That's my moat. That's what makes me different, right? And
it sounds like Hormozy.
Like
I've heard Hormozy say things like that too.
Hormozy too, yes, literally, yeah. I saw that too, right? Like it was what was his name? That big. That it was just recently, right?
He was interviewed
coach,
by,
right?
what's his name?
Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins did the same thing to him.
Yeah. Very revealing.
And Elon Musk has said the same thing. Like all these people, they're all miserable. They're literally miserable. They have everything. They have everything this world can give them. They can do anything they want that's in this world. They can money, women, power, houses, yachts, and anything that they want. That they can get with money. They can buy it. They can. People, everyone wants to be their friend, whatever. And the thing that they think they want, right? This is what Tony Robbins was trying to get at with Hormozy. It was like, you think what you want is to like expand your business, get to the next level, keep going. Like you think that you want the, not the destination, but the journey that never ends, right? But the point is that the journey you're on that never ends of making more and more money, getting to the next level, getting another billion, getting another 10 billion, 10xing that, fine, that journey doesn't end either, but that's not a fulfilling journey. That's not the journey your heart actually wants, right? Like, and you think you want it, right? You're still convinced because you're still doing it. If you weren't convinced that like the next level would get you satisfaction, you wouldn't keep doing it, right? Like you think that there's satisfaction down that road somewhere, right? You think you're like, it's a lie that like you have to get more and more miserable until finally most people, hopefully.
I have a question about this topic. Should I turn the light on? The sun is going down now, but
yeah.
When you listen, because I watched pretty much the entire interview with Tony Robbins and Alex Hormozi, and I'm wondering what you felt. I couldn't decide how I felt about when Tony Robbins started talking about, he talked about how his companies make billions, like revenue is, I think, in the billions from his portfolio of companies. And, but that he got to a point where the way he said it, I think, was something like, I'm fulfilled and I'm good. But then I looked around and he describes this switch into like philanthropy, or this shift into pouring more of his energy and like kind of like 10xing, 100xing the goals, where, he has this initiative where he feeds people because, some stranger brought his family that was destitute a Thanksgiving meal when he was a kid. And that's the origin story kind of. But so now he's fed like 1 million people. Now he's trying to feed 100 million. Maybe he already blew past that goal. I'm not sure. But he's kind of trying to convince Hormozi that like maybe he should shift from, yes, keep making money, keep doing your business, but why is your motivation like pain, basically? And also kind of convincing him that no, it's better to try to give back, I guess. And did that convince you? Like, did you feel like what Tony Robbins was saying? I had this moment where I had this like feeling where I got when he spoke, that like that was its own treadmill. And maybe I'm wrong. Like, but
it is.
It felt like he was like, now I'm going to feed 100 million people. And I felt like he was kind of saying the same thing. It was just, he transposed it onto like this new goal that is more like perceived as being
fulfilling,
better for the world and fulfilling. And like, is that what you got out of it?
Yeah, he's completely wrong. So this is a key point that Shabazz talks about. And it's kind of like the point about Ragnarok. Okay. So like in mythology, right?
What's Ragnarok?
Ragnarok is the end of the world in, Thor and Odin, Norse, right? Like in Norse mythology, right? That the end of the world is coming. Every great society, every great religion has this idea that the day of judgment will eventually come. The end of the world is preordained, like it's coming. And it's connected to this idea that like everything is getting worse all the time, right? And people kind of feel that, right? Societies are going, and there's like ups and downs, but like the trend always is towards the downside from like at a higher level in terms of like spirituality and like that stuff. And like the world is actually designed this way, to be bad and to get worse and eventually to end. And the reason it's designed that way is because you need a counterpoint to struggle against. Okay. So like people who are trying to be good, they have to have evil to drive them to be good, right? Like you can't have good without evil. There has to be a struggle to stop the end of the world, to prevent it from happening, to slow it down, to stop the deterioration of society, to stop and sometimes you succeed, sometimes you don't. The point is that like for somebody who understands the real point of existence, they're not trying to achieve the outcome. They're trying to please the divine. They're trying to please God. They're trying to do it for a higher purpose, right? It's not to feed the people, right? They want to feed the people and they hope that they do. But even if they fail, they still get the benefit of the trying to do it, right? So it's a matter of like, it's really a relationship with divinity, right? So like you are trying to do what God, to be more like God, right? To be the vice regent of God on the earth, right? Like Adam is the vice regent. You want to you want to do and be more like him, right? Like, because those are the things that are beautiful, like the divine characteristic, divine good, right? Like honesty and beauty, and like all of these things are like good things that are like hardwired into us to like, right? Like we like kindness and generosity, and like these things we just are hardwired to love, right? And to like. Those are divine qualities. And so like the purpose of existence is to like develop those qualities in your own soul. The purpose is not to solve the problems outside yourself. The purpose is really to solve yourself, to fix yourself, right? So everything that
Yeah.
you're doing is like, it's a relationship between you and divinity. And the point is to fix up yourself by what you're doing outside of yourself, how you're responding to the situation, right? That's in front of you. When somebody's mean to you, do you yell at them, right? Like, that's your problem. It's not their problem, right? So if you don't react like that, eventually people will actually stop being mean to you. Like all the stuff you hate is a reflection of your own faults. So like all the stuff that bothers you in the outside world, right? If it just eats up at you all the time and you just want to change it and get rid of it and fix it and like stop people from abusing me, stop my wife from doing this, and all this stuff is really bothering you, that stuff is like a problem with yourself. Once you get that problem out of you, like those things only exist because they're reflections of you. Like the universe, everyone in it, we're all like interrelated, and our energies are all like going back and forth, and we are literally like creating our reality from ourselves, right? Like what we send out, everything responds to it and sends back a reflection of us. And so we are seeing ourselves out there in all the stuff that we hate and all the stuff that we're struggling against. We're literally seeing like our own soul is like projected out onto the world, and everything that we see and experience and how we react to it and think about it is like filtered through these colored glasses, right? Remove the glasses, all of a sudden the thing doesn't look the way it did before, and it doesn't bother you anymore. Even if it keeps existing, you just don't care about it anymore, right? You move on to the next thing that bothers you. And so you're on this journey, right? So this is like real satisfaction, is when you yourself are changing and on a spiritual journey of progress, right? So like you're climbing a spiritual mountain, which means you're like changing at a very deep level. You're becoming a different person every day, or even every moment. And so when that finally clicks in people's heads, their whole experience of reality just completely changes. And they start feeling like the synchronicity, and they start like actually understanding, like, what is this moment asking of me to do right now? What's the next thing that I'm supposed to do to fix myself up even more, right? And so that's like basically the purpose of human existence, is to like wake up from thinking that it's about the stuff outside of you and realizing it's actually just about you. It's not about you fixing somebody else or giving them food or getting them out of poverty, or like convincing, or like for your children, it hits really hard, right? It's not about making sure that they grow up a certain way or they do this, whatever. That's all their journey. It's all their problem. Your journey is how you're supposed to act with them, and you're trying to guide them in the right way. But if they don't end up in the right way, that's not your fault. If you did your best, or you didn't do your best. At any point in your life, you can be like, okay, I'm going to start doing my best now. Okay. And then it doesn't matter anymore. You're basically forgiven for the past, right? You're just like, I'm sorry. I was mean to my kids before and they turned out bad. Now I'm going to start being good to them. And like, when you do it from like a place of real sincerity, the worst relationships just heal. The person realizes that you're totally different now. Like that thing that used to like ping back at them, like they would push your button, you would, push back. That thing doesn't exist anymore. It's gone. And when they're pushing your buttons, those buttons don't even exist anymore, right? You don't even feel it anymore. You don't respond. You don't react the same way you did. And then all of a sudden the relationship heals. So that's what it's all about.
I think it's worth it to know at this point that I can confirm that, in my personal relationship with our mom, my buttons that used to get pushed with her, suddenly those buttons didn't exist anymore. And she did go on a spiritual journey and did transform over the course of the last several decades of her life. So yeah.
Yeah. And she got better and better, right? Like all the way up until the end. I mean, she just kept improving. And I mean, which was, that's the point, that like, it's kind of this Japanese idea of like, just keep improving, right? Indefinitely at whatever you're trying to do, but you're not doing it for its own purpose. You're trying to keep improving yourself, not trying to get better and better at like carving wood, but like you're trying to get better and better at carving yourself so that you keep improving yourself. And that is what paradise is. Paradise is that just keeps going on forever. You just keep getting better, keep, experiencing more and more beauty. That's the only way a human heart can be fulfilled, is to like expand into the divine beauty, to seeing more and more of the divine beauty. It's like the more and more of the stuff that you find beautiful, you find wonderful, you see more and more of it, and you experience more and more of it, right? So that's like expanding the human heart. And then that's why they say that the only thing that can hold the divine in the created universe is the human heart. Like the only thing that the divine can, contain divinity, right? And it's because the heart is itself has infinite capacity for wanting, and beholding, right? And so that's it's like the journey after death. There's a journey here and there's a journey after death. And so it's not just about this life. Do you have to break your fast or something?
Oh, yes, I have to break my fast right now. Let me go get a glass of water and a date.
That was the wrong way. I'm supposed to expand my own screen. Sure.
So this discussion brought to mind some topics that we could explore next time.
Yeah.
Like, you sent me this survey that I haven't looked at yet, but, about people who have trouble with the protocol. I think that's one thing we could talk about, like the difference between me and you. And it kind of, it connects to this, like this discussion about a spiritual journey as well. But, I've been feeling really stuck, and I think I've had like progress and then like reversal, steps forward and real steps backwards, and a lot of confusion. I'm just like, I don't know. Could be. I don't know. It's very personal, but maybe we could talk about that in a podcast.
Yeah. You can talk about grief too. I think some people would benefit from it. Maybe we would benefit from it.
Yeah.
And also we can talk about how, like, again, related to this outcome thing, the important thing is not like actually physical healing. The important thing is like the journey that the soul is on. And for some people, the journey that they have to go on is like physical disease and suffering to change them. Like Shabazz says that, like, literally every single cancer patient, I think anyone can imagine this and agree with it. Like, he's asked them, like, are you the same person you were before you got cancer? Literally no one is the same person that they were before they got cancer. So like, whether they cure it or they don't cure it, the cancer changed them, right? Like the cancer itself is a blessing because it is trying to teach you and change you into something else, right? Some people accept that and they change easier, and like the reason that the cancer came and the thing it had to do for them or whatever, it's gone, and then the cancer disappears. And other people, they die with the cancer, but that doesn't mean that it didn't achieve what it needed to achieve for them. So it's like whether the person gets cured or they don't get cured, right? Like Shabazz's like deeper purpose is to like help that soul on its journey, whatever he can do for that soul right now, whether that's healing them or helping them heal or not healing them, or they try and they fail. I guess just another stage on their journey. And so like his goal is not like the outcome either. It's not like he wants you to heal if he can convince you. But the point of it is not that you heal. It's that like whatever he's going to do his best. But whatever that is what that person needed at that moment, right? And whether that person is ready to accept it or not, it's not like his thing to decide. It's not. And so like ultimately the person has to decide to heal. No one can make you heal, right? They can cut out your cancer and they can keep you alive, but like the same cancer in a metaphorical sense is still in you, right? It hasn't actually been cut out. You can just cut the physical thing out. You can't cut the real thing out. The real cancer is still there. And so at the end of the day, like at the highest level, the person has to decide to be healed. And if they don't decide, they can look like they're getting better. Like they can go through all the physical protocol. He talks about this too. Some people are like, they spend hours every day. They do the whole physical protocol and then they don't do any of the mental, emotional, none of the other work. And they haven't actually healed, right? Like they're still broken in the same way. It's just their symptoms have gone away. If they stop doing the physical stuff, they come back, or maybe even they don't, or maybe they like come back in a few years, or maybe some other symptom comes up. So even if you could find some technology that forced your body to stay healthy, the problem would appear in some other area of your life. Okay. Like no one can control the whole universe except for God, right? And so like it's God who's trying to tell you something with your illness. And if you shut up the illness, if you force the illness not to speak anymore, not to tell you what's wrong with you, you will find the problem in your relationships or in your money or in your business or in your, something, in your satisfaction, in your heart, in your emotions. Somewhere the problem will get bigger and bigger and start talking to you again. And so you can't escape, right? This is what he also tries to say, is that like, you can't escape. You might as well just give up and deal with yourself. You cannot escape yourself. Even if you kill yourself, you can't escape yourself. You will still continue to exist and you'll feel even more pain and you'll have to go through even more pain over there before you start to, get through it, right? It'll still be a journey. It's just going to reset to an even harder level as the starting point. Because all of a sudden everything's going to be laid bare. Like the real problem is all of a sudden going to become apparent to you. You're not going to be able to escape it with like drugs and alcohol, whatever that you're trying to numb yourself with. The numb appear when you right after you draw the knife, you're going to be in a different world. All the stuff that was numbing you is not going to be available anymore. Right. And so you can, either way, we're all headed to the same destination, which is like back to the divine source, right? That created us. And you can go easy or you can go hard, right? So like the mystics say, like either you go willingly or you get dragged there in chains. You're going anyway. There's no escape from it. This is like just the metaphysical reality of human beings and how they were created. And it's not about judgment. It's just about what you actually are, right? You're an infinite being. You can't stop existing. Like once you started, you can't stop. You can't be destroyed. You're indestructible. You will live forever in a different reality, in a different universe, in a different world after death. So this is just like a stage on that journey. And so you can't escape. You can do it the easy way or the hard way. Those are your two choices, or the in-between way, but like either way, whatever way you choose, you can't escape. So that's what everything is trying to convince you of. That's what your whole self and everything that happens. And I'm not fully convinced, like who is, right? Like who's really like completely committed to that journey? I mean, some people, I guess, they're more committed for sure. I mean, I know people who are fully committed. I think Shabazz is one of those people who's like, he's just like committed to it, right? Like he's like given up his desire for the world and for everything else. He's just like thrown it out of his heart. And like, all he cares about is, improving his own relationship with the divine and doing whatever he can to make that happen by doing like what God wants is you to help other people, right? But the point is not that they actually get helped. The point is that like, that's what God wants you to do, right? That's what a beautiful thing is. A beautiful human being is somebody who helps other people, right? And that becomes rewarding, right? Like you become rewarded by it. And when you do it for the right reason, like you're trying to fix your relationship with the divine, then all of a sudden your actions actually start having an effect on the world. that brings beauty and light into the world, right? All of a sudden, beauty and light starts reflecting back at you, and all your relationships get amazing and deeper and more fulfilling, right? And like and the thing that people don't realize is like all of those things are reflections of your relationship with the divine, right? Your reflections with your parents and your wife and your children and your work and everything. These are all different aspects where like the divine is saying, in this like aspect of your life, I want you to be towards me in this way, right? And so this is why like the heart has to be constantly able to turn. It has to be like flexible. It has to be like loose. And the point is that like this moment, what my heart needs to turn towards is like doing this podcast, right? And the next moment, I'm going to leave this room and my little daughter's going to run up to me and my heart has to turn towards her and like be with her in that moment. And then the next moment, I'm going to come on my wife and I'm going to have to like turn my heart towards like fully being present with her. And then I'm going to go to work and then I have to bring my whole self into my job and not be back somewhere else in the past or in the future. Like that's a problem with everyone. They're not here right now. And when they do get here right now, all of a sudden they're like, oh my God, this is wonderful. And the only thing that gets them here right now is like, they're about to die or something. And all of a sudden they're sucked into the moment, right? And they're like fully alive. Whereas like most people are like half dead or almost completely dead all the time because they're always thinking, they're like navel gazing. They're like thinking about themselves and they're not being like, they're not actually with themselves because yourself is what's happening right now is being reflected back at you. This is you. This is the next thing you have to work on is right here with you right now, And so we're always looking for it in the future or in the past, and we're never here right now. So it's like, this is why they say that this is a Sufi saying that the Sufi is the son of his moment. Like whatever that moment is, it gives birth to who you are in that moment, right? That's what you have to do. You have to do what that moment demands of you, that moment. And every moment is different, every single moment. And so like, that is what, like when you hit that realization of like, I have to become exactly what this moment is asking of me to be. I think there was this little point in my life where I got there for a little period of time. It was a few months. It was back in med school. I've told you about it before. And like my experience of reality was suddenly like so much different. It was like really like that is what these mystics talk about of having this experience. And it wasn't even as far as they talk about it. It was like some little percentage of it, right? Some little fraction of it. But I got like a taste of what it meant where they say that like, it's like heaven on earth, right? Like that's where the phrase comes from. It comes from realizing that you're actually in direct contact and communication with God in every single moment. Like he is right here trying to tell you something with everything that's happening around you, right? Like this is the voice of the divine. It's right there. There's like nothing between you and it. Like you just can't see it. It's just, you're like blinded yourself to it, right? And in that veil just gets like ripped away when you die. Like it doesn't exist anymore when you die. Like all of a sudden you see the reality that like everything that you are is being constantly created right now. It's not that you were created once and then like just let go into the universe. Every moment is a new creation, right? Like this is a concept that's present in one of the major religions. If you actually like go deep enough, it's like moment to moment creation, right? Like that's what God says in one of the ancient books, like I am time. Time is like what happened now. And then the next thing changed. Like it's a rate of change, right? Like that's what time is. It's like you're measuring how things change through time. So like every single moment, like you have a snapshot of the universe and the next moment is slightly different. That new moment was literally created. And the last moment is not there anymore, right? And then the next moment's created. And then actually that's our experience of it, right? Whereas in reality, like everything already exists, right? Like God already knows everything that's gonna, that happened before and is gonna happen in the future. But like we're experiencing it like in a linear way, but like everything is already there. He's like outside of time, it's like a creation of his. So like he's not limited by it. But Anyway, maybe we should call it a day and like get together the next time
Okay,
if you're ready tomorrow.
sure.
If you want, we can do it a little earlier.
Yeah, maybe
Same
not.
time, same place.
Maybe not tomorrow. Tomorrow's Saturday, right? We might have to go do it earlier, but let's talk about that
Yeah, I
after.
can do
I
it.
guess.
Yeah.
Thanks for
Okay,
this.
I got to run too. Yeah, it's fun.